America is the only place on Earth where you can legally marry your cousin, but only after you've both hit senior citizen discounts and simultaneously get fined by your neighborhood HOA because your lawn gnome looks too whimsical. This is a country where you can sue God, lose, and still walk away thinking you had a solid case. It's a place that built entire towns out of typos, marketing stunts, and inside jokes, then wrote laws so dumb they feel like parody. Outsiders look at this and think, surely that's satire. No, friend, that's Tuesday. And if you think that's the peak of American absurdity, buckle up, because the real highlights haven't even started yet. 1. Only in France can you marry a corpse. But in America? We don't need that level of gothic romance. Instead, we make sure our weddings are alive and breathing, while making rules that are arguably even dumber. For example, in several US states, you can't get married if you've had too much to drink. Sounds reasonable, right? Except too much means the government literally has to decide how sober you need to be to ruin your life legally. Imagine explaining to your grandkids, no, Grandma didn't get arrested for streaking, she just had 3 margaritas before marrying your grandpa, and the state considered that fraud, and yet the same lawmakers who say, no marriage drunk also thought, but yes, marriage at 16 if mom and dad sign a permission slip. America, where buying a beer requires 21 years of patience. But legally chaining yourself to another human for eternity is fine as long as your parents initial the paperwork. We outlaw bad decisions in the name of morality, while simultaneously handing minors a permanent roommate contract. Congratulations, that's called freedom. 2. Utah has a very specific take on love. First cousins can get married, but only if they're both 65 or older. Nothing says romance like waiting until Social Security kicks in to finally smooch your family tree. Technically, if you're infertile at 55, the state will let you tie the knot a decade earlier because apparently once the genetic threat is gone, they figure, hey, let's let these two reunite the family reunion a little too closely. Imagine being in love with your cousin and counting down the birthdays like it's a Netflix premiere. Babe, only 8 more years and we can finally make this legal. Other countries look at this and think we're joking. Nope. Utah actually wrote it into law. Cousin marriage is fine, but only once you've aged out of the breeding program. That's not a law, that's a punchline dressed in paperwork. And the worst part? The state thinks it's progressive because it limits the genetic risks. Meanwhile, everyone else is just screaming, maybe, just maybe, don't marry your cousin at any age. 3. Picture this. You come home from Costco with a car full of paper towels, dog food, and a gallon of salsa. You open your garage door to unload it all. But if you live under certain homeowners associations in America, you're now an outlaw. Some HOAs have rules that your garage door must remain shut unless a car is actively moving in or out. Translation: grocery unloading is now a covert military op. The reasoning? Curb appeal. As if your neighbor's delicate eyeballs will explode if they glimpse your leaf blower and holiday decorations. So, you either sprint like a criminal, one trip at a time, or risk a fine because Brenda on the HOA board has binoculars and too much free time. This is the same country that claims to fight for liberty, but you can get written up because your garage dared to yawn open for 2 minutes. In America, you don't just own your home. You lease it from the angry mall cop next door who patrols property values like it's the Cold War. 4. Here's the thing about America. At 18, you're considered mature enough to buy a semi-automatic rifle. But at 20, you're apparently still too much of a baby to handle a Bud Light. The legal logic is staggering. You can enlist in the military, storm foreign countries, and run a tank. But you can't toast with champagne at your own wedding until the magic number 21 rolls around. Other nations scratch their heads because usually it's the opposite. Alcohol is tolerated early, but guns? Maybe not. Here, it's drink responsibly? Absolutely not. Firearms responsibly? Good luck. Imagine trying to explain that to a European tourist. Yes, Timmy can't legally order a beer at Applebee's, but he can legally purchase enough firepower to redecorate a parking lot. America doesn't just blur the line between logic and insanity, it loads it, cocks it, and tells you you're too young for a cocktail but mature enough for combat. 5. In 2011, Congress decided that pizza and French fries could count as vegetables in school cafeterias, Because apparently tomato paste is now a superfood. Somewhere, a nutritionist cried so hard their kale smoothie curdled. This was part of a lobbying war where the frozen food industry fought tooth and nail to make Pizza Day sound like a balanced diet. So yes, thanks to American lawmaking, a school can proudly claim it served kids their daily veggies by handing them pepperoni grease triangles and curly fries. It's the only country where kids are technically healthier eating at Domino's than eating a salad. Parents complain about obesity, schools complain about budgets, and Congress just shrugs. Don't worry, ketchup counts. This is the same government that tracks your dog's rabies shots, but can't figure out the difference between a carrot and a tater tot. America didn't just move the goalpost, they deep-fried it, dipped it in ranch, and served it with a side of vegetables. 6. Want to decorate your garden with a ceramic gnome? Cute idea. Unless you live in an American suburb, where many HOAs ban lawn ornaments because they're considered a Class A violation. That's right, your tiny plastic gnome is apparently a bigger threat to community safety than the guy speed-running stop signs in his lifted truck. Homeowners have literally been fined for putting out flamingos, gnomes, or anything that might suggest whimsy, because nothing ruins property values like the smiling face of a gnome peeking out of your petunias. Other countries tolerate graffiti, broken-down scooters, or goats roaming the street. Meanwhile, America draws the line at Tinkerbell-shaped solar lights. Forget freedom of expression. Your front yard must look like a Cold War embassy, blank, sterile, and joyless. It's not landscaping, it's set design for a dystopia. 7. Love is a battlefield, but in Kentucky, it's also a 3-strike game. By law, you can marry and divorce the same person up to 3 times. But if you try a 4th, illegal. At that point, the state basically confiscates your car keys like you're a drunk teenager and says, "Nope, we're not letting you make this mistake again." Imagine the paperwork clerk looking you in the eye while you're holding flowers and saying, "Sorry, buddy." You've maxed out your subscription to marital chaos. Other countries just shake their heads at our divorce rates. But America has to invent rules to cap how many times you can run back into the burning building. Kentucky didn't create marriage law, it created relationship rehab with state-enforced boundaries. 8. In Nebraska, a state senator once actually filed a lawsuit against God, demanding the Almighty be banned from unleashing natural disasters. The case was dismissed, not because it was insane, but because the court literally couldn't find God's address to serve the papers. Think about that. America didn't say, "This is bonkers." It said, "Sorry, your paperwork wasn't filed properly." In this system, divine omnipotence isn't immune to human stupidity. It just gets lost in the mail. Only in America could the Almighty dodge a lawsuit on a technicality, like some divine version of, "Sorry, new phone, who dis?" 9. After lawsuits against fast food chains for misleading advertising, U.S. regulators have rules about honest portion sizes, which means somewhere in Washington, bureaucrats are measuring cheeseburgers with a ruler like forensic scientists. If a quarter pounder turns out to be a fifth of a pound after cooking, technically that's fraud. Imagine being the poor government worker who has to weigh French fries in the name of justice. Meanwhile, the same government shrugs at $10,000 hospital bills for Tylenol. This is America, a land where they'll prosecute sandwich lies, but let healthcare bills read like ransom notes. 10. Did you know it's illegal to put anything in someone's mailbox unless it's delivered by the U.S. Postal Service? That means, technically, slipping a birthday card or a flyer in your neighbor's box is a federal crime. Yes, in America, you can buy a gun in half the country with a Walmart gift card, but heaven forbid you put a pizza coupon in the wrong slot. Other countries see mailboxes as community objects. Here, they're guarded by federal law, like they're the nuclear codes. Honestly, we don't just protect democracy. We protect junk mail with our lives. 11. In many suburbs, growing tomatoes in your front yard is banned because it's considered an aesthetic violation. Flowers are fine. Shrubs are fine. But food, offensive. Apparently, nothing says property value collapse like a cucumber vine. HOAs have literally fined families for daring to grow zucchini in plain view. In a nation that romanticizes self-reliance, we outlaw visible agriculture like it's contraband. Only in America do we worship farmers, then ban farming if it ruins Brenda's view of her hydrangeas. 12. Okay, technically this one's not written into American law, but the superstition exists in pockets of the culture. Don't marry in a leap year, or you're cursed. Other countries treat this as a quirky tradition. Americans? We institutionalize nonsense like this in wedding planning guides, with entire businesses warning brides that leap year marriages are doomed. Forget divorce courts. Forget in-laws. The real threat to your union is February 29th. America has turned superstition into customer service advice. 13. America is full of towns with names like Ding Dong, Scratch Ankle, and Booger Hole. Yes, those are real. Other nations name places after kings, saints, or beautiful landscapes. We name ours after a guy's bad joke with a paintbrush or a series of unsolved murders. Imagine trying to sell real estate in Booger Hole, West Virginia. Great schools, safe community, ignore the homicide history, and yes, that really is the town's name. These names aren't history, they're permanent pranks on future generations. 14. At a Miami resort, a guest once demanded that the hotel drain and refill the swimming pool with bottled Fiji water because chlorine was bad for their skin. And you know what? If they'd been rich enough, some hotel probably would have done it. That's America in a nutshell, where customer entitlement meets corporate desperation to keep 5 stars on Yelp. Other countries roll their eyes at entitled tourists. America? We build industries around them. 15. Yes, someone once filed a complaint that their airline allowed too much gravity during the flight. They expected weightlessness, like astronauts, and accused the airline of using budget gravity. This is why America can't have nice things. Other countries produce Nobel-winning physicists. We produce Yelp reviews against physics itself. The Wright brothers invented flight. Their descendants invented whining about it. 16. At an American wellness resort, a guest angrily complained that the vegetarian buffet didn't offer steak. This wasn't a joke. It was a formal complaint. Imagine storming up to management and saying, "Excuse me, your plant-based menu lacks ribeye." Only in America do people demand meat at a vegetarian retreat, then call it false advertising. This isn't misunderstanding, it's weaponized stupidity. 17. In the 1800s, when a railroad company refused to pay taxes, the sheriff of Chama, New Mexico, literally chained a steam engine to the tracks and declared it under arrest. Picture the passengers sitting inside while the sheriff slaps cuffs on a locomotive. That's American law enforcement for you. Can't stop crime, but can absolutely detain public transportation. Other nations tax corporations. We literally arrest machines. 18. In Florida, you can't legally sell your children. Yes, that's an actual law, which means at some point someone in Florida looked at their screaming toddler, a Craigslist account, and thought, why not? The state had to clarify, no kids on the resale market, not even with free shipping. Meanwhile, the same lawmakers who outlawed toddler yard sales are perfectly fine with you buying an alligator for a backyard pet. Priorities. Other countries are stunned. America won't let you list your child online, but they'll let you legally arm wrestle reptiles at theme parks. It's a nation where "don't sell your offspring" had to be spelled out in black and white, as though humanity was one bad Facebook marketplace post away from becoming a medieval bazaar. 19. In California, it's illegal to whistle for your lost canary before 7 a.m. Think about that. You can wake up your neighbors with a leaf blower at dawn, but heaven forbid you serenade Tweety too early. Somewhere in Los Angeles, a cop has been trained to identify illegal bird whistling, and yet honking your car horn all night long? That's fine. This is the land where noise complaints are handled with the same energy as fashion policing. Lawnmowers at sunrise, legal. Bird calls at 6:59, criminal. In Europe, people sip coffee in quiet courtyards. In America, you risk a misdemeanor for trying to retrieve your own pet. We don't enforce quiet hours, we enforce ironic comedy routines. 20. In Alabama, it's illegal to drive blindfolded, which means someone tried it. The lawmakers didn't wake up one morning and think, we should legislate against Batman cosplay. No, this law was born because some genius wrapped a scarf over their eyes, floored it, and ruined everyone else's commute. Other countries pass laws about emissions or safety standards. America? We have to legally remind people not to role-play daredevil in traffic. And the wild part is, the law only bans blindfolds. It doesn't mention texting, eating tacos, or reading a map on the steering wheel. those are still technically fair game. Apparently, distracted driving is a gray area, but covering your eyes? That crosses the line. 21. Texas has a law that says you can't milk another person's cow. Not your cow, not your problem. Some rancher had to watch his neighbor sneak into the barn like a lactose bandit and demand legislation. Imagine the courtroom. Your Honor, he stole my cow's dignity. This is America, home of property rights so strong we extend them to bovine udders. Other countries worry about water rights and land use. Here, we've got a legal framework to prevent unauthorized dairy heists. Somewhere, there's a man who had to explain to a judge why he was holding a bucket under someone else's livestock. And honestly, that's the most American testimony I can imagine. 22. In Oklahoma, you can't make faces at a dog. Not fight a dog, not provoke a dog, just make faces. Lawmakers actually criminalized side-eyeing a Labrador. Imagine being hauled into court because you smirked at a Chihuahua. Other nations draft laws about terrorism. America drafts laws about insulting golden retrievers. Somewhere, a state legislator looked at a droopy-eyed basset hound, felt judged, and thought, this must be stopped. So now, somewhere in Tulsa, a bored cop could theoretically fine you for sticking your tongue out at a pug. It's less a justice system and more a sketch comedy show with gavels. 23. In Nevada, it's illegal to drive a camel on the highway. Yes, a camel. Because once upon a time, America experimented with camel cavalry, and apparently, someone forgot to take them off the freeway. Imagine honking at rush hour and realizing the holdup isn't a minivan. It's a guy on a dromedary, casually chewing grass in the fast lane. Other countries regulate scooters. America regulates livestock caravans. This law basically says, look, we can't stop you from having a camel in your backyard, but please don't merge onto I-15 with it. Somewhere, there's an officer who had to pull over a Bedouin cosplay gone wrong. 24. In Minnesota, it's technically illegal to cross state lines with a duck on your head. Which means, yes, at some point someone strapped a mallard to their scalp and took a road trip. Was it fashion? Performance art? We'll never know. But now, there's a law ensuring you can't cross into Wisconsin looking like Donald Duck's Uber driver. Other countries use borders to check passports and customs. America? We're frisking people for poultry headgear. Imagine the patrol stop. Sir, step out of the car and remove the duck. Only in this country would waterfowl head accessories become a matter of interstate justice. 25. In Georgia, you can't eat fried chicken with utensils. Fried chicken is legally designated a finger food, and one poor tourist got arrested for using a fork. Yes, arrested. In a country that invented sporks, we still force you to barehand your drumsticks or face the law. Imagine explaining that to a Frenchman delicately slicing coq au vin. Here, monsieur, it's jail time if you don't gnaw it like a raccoon. America has elevated greasy fingers into a patriotic obligation. Somewhere, Colonel Sanders is laughing from beyond the grave, proud that his recipe is federally enforced. 26. In North Carolina, bingo games can't last more than 5 hours, because apparently extended bingo is a public menace. Imagine lawmakers sitting around panicked that retirees are playing too many rounds of B12. Other countries regulate banks. America regulates card markers and numbered balls. Somewhere, a senior citizen's night of fun got cut short by the sheriff announcing, "That's game 47, folks. Pack it up. You're criminals now." We don't stop billionaires from exploiting loopholes, but heaven forbid Nana plays blackout past 11 p.m. 27. In South Carolina, it's illegal to keep a horse in a bathtub, which means someone actually tried to, and not just once, enough times that lawmakers decided, we've got to step in. Was the horse getting spa treatments? Did someone think a bubble bath would calm it down? We may never know. Other countries build stable laws. America bans horse bathtub crossovers like it's a common epidemic. The fact this needed legislation proves that somewhere, a sheriff walked into a farmhouse, saw a pony neck-deep in suds and thought, we need a statute for this. 28. In Alaska, it's illegal to wake up a sleeping bear to take a photograph. Translation: someone actually poked a hibernating predator for Instagram likes. Only in America could "don't harass the apex carnivore" need to be codified. Imagine the ranger's incident report. Tourist shook bear, attempted selfie, bear disagreed. Other nations protect endangered species. America protects them from influencers with tripods. The fact this is law isn't conservation. It's survival training for people whose IQ drops to single digits when holding a smartphone. 29. In Arizona, it's illegal to let a donkey sleep in your bathtub. And yes, that's a cousin of the horse bathtub law. Apparently, the American frontier had a serious problem with people tucking livestock into porcelain tubs like oversized toddlers. At some point, enough donkeys were living their best spa life that Arizona wrote it down in the law books. Picture the officer barging in. "Sir, put the bubble wand down and remove the burro." Other nations think Americans are obsessed with guns. We're also obsessed with bathing farm animals in our homes. 30. In Ohio, it's illegal to get a fish drunk. Somewhere, a man stared at his goldfish bowl, a bottle of vodka, and thought, science. Lawmakers had to step in and say, no, the carp does not want shots. Other countries fund marine biology programs. America funds statutes against fish frat parties. Imagine the trial. Your Honor, the base failed a sobriety test. This isn't law. It's a cartoon. And yet, here we are, protecting aquatic life from becoming barflies. 31. In Connecticut, a pickle isn't legally a pickle unless it bounces. Yes, inspectors once tested pickles by dropping them on the ground. If it splattered instead of bounced, it was an imposter. Imagine a courtroom full of solemn officials, throwing cucumbers like NBA players to see if the law holds up. Other countries regulate food safety. America? We regulate vegetable acrobatics. Somewhere, a farmer had to argue, "No, Your Honor, my pickles have a solid vertical leap." Only in this nation could fermented cucumbers double as sporting equipment. 32. In Kansas, it's illegal to serve wine in teacups, because apparently that's the line between civilization and chaos. Pour it in a glass? Perfectly fine. Pour it in grandma's china? Criminal. Imagine a dinner party where cops storm in shouting, "Drop the porcelain." Other countries worry about underage drinking. America worries about stemware choices. We're not protecting children. We're protecting table settings. Only here could tea etiquette become a matter of state law. 33. In Maine, it's illegal to keep Christmas decorations up after January 14th, which means somewhere, an officer has fined a man for clinging to his inflatable Santa. This is the nation that screams about freedom, but your front yard reindeer has an expiration date. Other countries allow lanterns, festivals, year-round lights. Here, you get slapped with a violation if Frosty overstays his welcome. Imagine explaining that to the Founding Fathers. Men died for liberty, but you must deflate the snowman by mid-January. 34. In Louisiana, it's illegal to send a surprise pizza delivery to someone's house without their consent. That's right, unauthorized pepperoni is a crime, which means some poor soul was so traumatized by extra cheese that the state made it illegal. Other countries laugh about pranks. America writes statutes against them. Imagine calling 911. "Yes, officer, someone sent me garlic knots against my will." This is the only nation where Domino's delivery could double as evidence in a criminal trial. 35. In Vermont, it's illegal to whistle underwater. Yes, lawmakers had to clarify this. As if someone was snorkeling, realized they couldn't whistle Yankee Doodle, and immediately demanded legislative action. Other countries protect reefs. America protects the sanctity of underwater jazz. Imagine the courtroom. Your Honor, the defendant knowingly attempted a sea shanty at 5 feet deep. Meanwhile, you can blast a jet ski through a pond like it's Mario Kart, but heaven forbid you try to whistle Sweet Caroline below the surface. 36. In New Jersey, you can't pump your own gas. The state insists it's too dangerous for normal humans, so attendants must do it for you. Which means New Jersey has legally banned independence at the fuel pump. Other states are fine with people buying fireworks, chainsaws, and bear repellent at Walmart. But in Jersey, you're too fragile to handle a gas nozzle. Residents defend it like it's a luxury. We're protecting jobs. No, you're outsourcing your own competence. It's the only place where freedom stops at the Exxon station. 37. In Oregon, it's illegal to go hunting in a cemetery, which means someone really did it. Imagine standing over grandma's headstone, shotgun in hand, muttering, "I swear I saw a duck fly through here." Other countries protect cemeteries with reverence. America protects them from deer hunters. Somewhere, a game warden had to tell a man in camo that the graveyard is not a designated wildlife zone. 38. In Indiana, it's illegal to catch fish with your bare hands. So, noodling. A practice where you stick your arm into a catfish's mouth is outlawed. The logic? It's dangerous. But this is the same country where children legally compete in rodeos. So yes, you can strap your 8-year-old to a 2,000-pound bull. But if you personally arm wrestle a catfish, you're a menace to society. Indiana didn't ban the danger. They banned the fun. 39. In Massachusetts, it's illegal to snore unless all bedroom windows are closed and locked. That's right, government-regulated nasal airflow. Imagine a police officer writing a ticket because your husband sounds like a chainsaw with bad timing. Other countries deal with noise pollution through urban planning. America? We legislate REM cycles. Somewhere, a cop has leaned into a window, listening for snores, like the worst version of Santa Claus. 40. In California, it's illegal for women to drive while wearing a housecoat. Which means, yes, someone once decided that polyester loungewear was a public hazard. Picture a woman in 1950, rolling through Los Angeles in a floral robe, and lawmakers panicking. This cannot stand. Other nations worry about distracted driving. We outlaw terry cloth fashion choices. It's not traffic enforcement. It's wardrobe critique with legal teeth. 41. In Wisconsin, it's illegal to serve apple pie in restaurants without cheese. Not ice cream, cheese. Because nothing says dessert like a slice of cheddar melting sadly over your crust. Somewhere, a diner cook had to explain to tourists. Sorry, state law says your pie needs dairy armor. Other countries regulate allergens. America forces lactose where it doesn't belong. Wisconsin basically legalized sabotage and called it tradition. 42. In Florida, of course Florida, it's illegal to sing in public while wearing a swimsuit. Imagine Miami Beach, neon bikinis everywhere, total silence, because opening your mouth risks arrest. Tourists from Europe must think they're in some dystopian fashion opera. America didn't just ban indecency, we banned the soundtrack. Sunburn? Fine. Singing Sweet Home Alabama in a Speedo? Criminal offense. 43. In Utah, birds have the right-of-way on highways. Yes, pigeons and seagulls legally outrank you in traffic. Imagine being late to work because a flock of sparrows staged a sit-in on I-15. Other nations protect pedestrians. America protects pigeons like they're VIP commuters. Somewhere, a cop has waved at a goose and said, "After you, sir." 44. In Arizona, you can't let a donkey sleep in your bathtub. But remember, that doesn't apply to camels on highways. So, yes, the legal system is a patchwork quilt of nonsense. Somewhere in Arizona, a man thought, "I can't tuck in my burro, but I can drive my camel to Starbucks." That's not law. It's Mad Libs with a gavel. 45. In Kentucky, it's illegal to dye a duckling blue and sell it unless you're selling at least 6. Because apparently, one dyed duck is cruelty, but 6 is a business. Imagine explaining that to a kid. "No, Timmy, you can't have one neon duck. You must buy the 6-pack other nations regulate exotic pets." We regulate poultry in bulk quantities. Somewhere, a pet shop owner had to argue whether 5 turquoise ducklings counted as a misdemeanor or a bargain deal. 46. In Washington, it's illegal to harass Bigfoot. Yes, Sasquatch is protected by state law. Meanwhile, actual endangered species get less attention. You can bulldoze a forest, but if you yell at Bigfoot, you're a criminal. Other countries preserve tigers. America preserves cryptids. Somewhere, a ranger is waiting with cuffs for the day someone finally heckles a Yeti. 47. In Nebraska, bar owners are required by law to brew a kettle of soup at all times. Not sometimes, always. Imagine walking into a bar, ordering whiskey, and being legally entitled to chicken noodle. Other countries enforce food safety. America enforces soup quotas. Somewhere, a bartender is stirring a pot at 2 a.m. Not because anyone asked, but because the government said so. 48. In Rhode Island, it's illegal to bite off someone else's leg, which implies it happened. Enough times, in fact, that lawmakers thought, we need a statute for this. Other nations outlaw murder. We outlaw cannibalistic limb removal, specifically below the hip. Somewhere, a lawyer once argued, "My client only gnawed the calf." That's not technically illegal. 49. In Texas, it's illegal to sell your eyeballs, which again means someone tried it. Imagine Craigslist. Lightly used, good vision, $300 OBO. Other nations regulate organ transplants. America regulates DIY eye vending. Somewhere, a sheriff had to confiscate a mason jar of corneas and file it as evidence. 50. In New Mexico, idiots once renamed the town of Hot Springs to Truth or Consequences after a radio quiz show. Imagine living in a town named after a publicity stunt. Other countries preserve cultural heritage. America names cities after game shows. It's less a town name and more a dare to visitors. Welcome to Truth or Consequences. Spoiler, it's mostly consequences. 51. And finally, drumroll. There's a law in Arkansas that says you can't mispronounce the state's name. That's right, mispronounce Arkansas, and technically you're breaking the law. Imagine the audacity, a state spelled Arkansas, yet legally demanding you say Arkansas. Other countries fight wars over language rights. America criminalizes phonics. The same place that legalized cousin marriage at 65 will throw a fit if you rhyme it with Kansas. That's the ultimate American paradox. You can sue God, marry your cousin, bathe a horse, and drive a camel. But don't you dare say Arkansas. That's the hill we die on. Mic dropped. And there you have it. 51 reminders that America is less a country and more a very expensive improv show with legal paperwork. We've got rules that protect soup, gnomes, cryptids, and even pronunciation, but somehow not common sense. So now it's your turn. Which one deserves the crown for dumbest law? Drop your vote in the comments, or better yet, tell me the most ridiculous rule you've ever heard. Go ahead, feed the chaos. And if you want more of this madness, you know the drill. Hit like, hit subscribe, and let's keep digging.